Welcome everybody, my name's Scott Hebbard from Sparx Systems, and once again we're looking at our urban parking system repository. Today we're going to be looking at intermediate sequence diagrams. Now in the past we've looked at an introduction to sequence diagrams and we've shown some of the basic features, but we're going to step through our series and have a look at some of the more intermediate features. I'm joined today by Stephen Maguire, our resident expert on all things UML, including sequence diagrams. Welcome, Stephen. How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you, Scott, and thanks for the introduction. Yeah, let's make a start on this now. We are going to be looking at the UML sequence diagram, which is an interaction diagram, which is part of the behavioral model. So remember that the diagrams in UML are divided into both structural and behavioral. Anyway, Scott, I'm going to set my perspective up in the top right-hand corner. We have a perspective. I've been working on some Archimate models this morning, but I'm going to set that into UML and behavioral models there. So that sets the focus of the diagram. Now here you can see that we have a number of patterns, and if we look at the sequence diagram patterns here, we can see that there are a whole lot of pre-built patterns that or models that allow you to understand some of the ways that these models work. And you can see there a lot of different options. I like to do things from first principles, Scott. So we're going to cancel this window, close this window, but I encourage you to return to this as you're starting with your work, and you can easily inject these models in by just using the create model button there. And there's full documentation on these patterns as well. But from first principles, Scott, let's close this one up. We have our navigation window showing down in the bottom right-hand corner. You can see that we've got behavioral models. This little icon here allows me to look at, take a kind of preview of what is underneath that button when I click on it, cell. So I'll double click on that. And you can see here that we've got interaction diagrams, and we have a number of them, including this sequence diagram main payment. So it is a parking system repository we're looking at. So the motorist can expect that in some circumstances, they'll be paying for their parking. So let's have a look at how that works. Again, we can preview that diagram if we want to, but we can click through on it and launch the diagram. So just to refresh people's memory, we have a sequence diagram where we have a number of objects or elements across running across in the x-axis, if you like, there. So display unit, meter controller, time manager, payment system. And time runs down the page. So we're starting from the top of the page, and time is increasing as we go down the page. On the left-hand side here, we've got a note. That's a very useful thing to do. I'm just going to move some of these elements over. I've just selected that. Select A to select them all. And I'm going to Control A to select them all. I'm just going to move them over a little bit there. You can also see, Scott, that we've got a legend there that's telling us what all the different types of elements are. So let's have a quick look at this. We've got a display unit, we've got a meter controller, and time manager, payment system, and we've got messages that are moving across here. Now I'm going to hide my toolbox for a moment, just using this little chevron here, gives me a little bit more space. Move this over. And Enterprise Architect has got this great feature where it's just displaying the properties window, and as you select different elements in the diagram, then the properties window is changing into the type of properties that are available or set for that particular object. So if we select a message in there, you can see that there's a message panel in the properties window, and it's got all sorts of different messages there. So there's a message, parameters, arguments, return values, alias, lots of different things. This section down the bottom here, the control flow type, is what's going to be interesting to us. Now let's have a look at this here. We're going to bring up our features window as well, and just want to pin that one back there. So you can see that these have been entered as messages. So they're not features of a particular element. And we're going to look at that in a subsequent video, Scott. But at the moment, they're entered as simply as messages. Now, if we look at this one here, we can see that it's a synchronous message, and we can change that from synchronous to asynchronous. And what that means...
So what's the difference between synchronous and asynchronous?
Yeah, great question, Scott. For those who are not coming from a computer science background, they won't be familiar with this, but a synchronous message is something where you expect to get a response. You ask a question
Right.
and you expect to get a response straight away. Can you tell me the time? Yes, the time is 10 o'clock, right? So that's what's happening there. An asynchronous message, could you get me a list of players in tomorrow's football game?
Yeah.
You're not expecting to get that back straight away. And that's asynchronous. You're not going to wait there for the person to go off and do their research and come back with that message. So that's an asynchronous message. And the other type of message that's not on this one, there are a couple of other types. One of them is this calculate the payment, and we've got a duration there. We can put another message in here, which is a return message. So we are going to come back from that, and we're going to say, look, we're going to return the information to the display unit. And of course, implicit in this is that there's a user out here looking at this display unit. We haven't put that onto the diagram, but that's implicit in the diagram. Now that message there by itself is not returned, but we can see here in this one here, we've got a little checkbox. We can say it's return. We need to save that, and you can see that the line style changes, and we can put a message on that, and we can say payment amount.
Yeah.
So that's what's being returned. Now you don't have to put these return messages in. Implicit in them is that the outgoing message is a return. I want to show you something, Scott, here with our preferences, and it's important with all diagrams, but particularly the sequence diagram. If we go to our start ribbon and our appearance panel and the preferences option there, we can click on preferences, and that one pops up. Under diagrams in this little tree view, we have sequence. So these, not all diagrams are listed here, but the sequence diagram is a particular diagram. It's quite different to the rest of the diagrams in UML, and for that matter, a lot of the other languages like Archimate. But you can see here that there are a number of options. So default page layout is landscape. Often you're moving across the screen, so that's important. Show sequence numbers, we'll come back to that. Assume right to left messages are returned. So that's something we could put in, and we could make sure that worked. But so if I click that one there, let's close that now, and we could turn this one off, and it when we do a new message, that would automatically assume that one from the right to left message is a return. So that's an interesting type of message. I think it's important in some circumstances that you want to show something that's coming back to a particular element in the diagram. The other thing is that I can move these messages up and down, so you can see that I can just move them if I want, and the rest of the diagram is moving as I do that.
So you could rearrange the sequence of events as well.
I could, Scott. Yes, I could. But be aware that another thing that we need to be aware of here is there is an option on the helpers for reorder messages. So without that checked, the messages will move down, and you won't be able to reorder them. So you need to have that checked to be able to reorder the messages. So now you can see that it's not moving down, and I can say, look, I want to move this one into this location. So that's a very important. And
I think it's a good tip for new players, that one.
Yeah, exactly. So the diagrams can end up quite complex because often you're modeling quite complex things. Let's leave that reorder messages on there for a moment, and let's move this one down a little bit, and you can see here it's got just a little bit of I guess a little bit of UML is that the elements that are across the top are lifelines, or they represent elements in the repository in our case. So they can be really a lifeline as well as that. And the little dotted line is sort of showing the lifeline of the particular element. And they go down to the bottom of the diagram. The little bars, which are called activation bars, are showing when the particular element or lifeline is active for. So this display unit is active. Now, it wasn't before we put this payment amount. If you see when I move this down, the payment amount the activation is moving down when I move that line down as well. So it's saying, look, it's a message. In this case, we were waiting for the return, and so it's going to be active all that time waiting for that return. The other thing we can do is we can put what's called a self message, or I like to call it a reflex one. So it's coming back to itself.
Yeah.
So we can put that message in, and I can scroll up there and get that message selected. Can just scroll off that for tick. Now selected, and that message there, I can put another operation in there. Say let's calculate discount. Yeah, and so that's a self message there. It's going from one object back to itself. So that's some of the extra things that you can do with the sequence diagram. I'm going to show you one more thing, Scott, that I think is useful. I'm going to put a message in from here to the time manager, and I'm going to just call it debate. Spell that correctly. Well, let's just call it create for a start. Actually,
okay.
Create. So what that message goes in there, and what I can do on that message is using the message panel of the properties window. You can see that down here there's a life cycle option here, and I can say new there. And if you recall what I said before about time running down the page, look what happens when we choose new and save that. Now this element has moved down in the page. What that means semantically is that the object is not created at the start of the time, so the time sequence that this diagram is running over. So the display unit, the meter controller, but the time manager has not been created until we get this. And I've spelt that wrong. Let me just correct that spelling. Create time manager there. So the point of this is that if you've got expensive resources or things that you don't want to have available right from the jump, then you can create them at a particular point. And I can also, if I want to, put in a destroy message, if you like, as well. So I can put that one in there, and I can again put the life cycle, and I can say delete. So that's going to delete that one, and I'll just put a delete time manager there.
Yeah.
And that's going to mean that it's going to be deleted, and that's indicated by that little cross there, as it turns out. So that's very useful. The diagrams can get quite busy, and sometimes you need to have a reasonable sized monitor if you want to be describing a whole lot of different events. The other thing I can do as it does get busy, Scott, is I can turn a few things off. So I can say right back here and say, look, let's suppress the activations. They're interesting when I need, but let's suppress them. And now the diagrams are kind of a bit easier to look at, right? I can just go, don't need those. But the activations are very useful. So you can say, look, let's turn that off and put them back on again. Look at it and do that. Just to refresh people's memory as well. It may be curious if you haven't looked at the previous introduction video. Is what's happening here with this line that's going down at an angle, and it's got less than 1500 ms per milliseconds. So if we click on that line and have a look at this timing details, you can see here that the duration constraint is less than 1.5 seconds effectively. And I can put all sorts of other details in. We're not going to go into those, but I encourage you to have a look at those in the help system. Duration constraints between messages, all sorts of other information there.
So basically, you can add temporal constraints to your sequence diagram.
Exactly, and we'll just have a look at one of them. I can drag that one down onto there, and And let me just drop it onto that one maybe. Well, actually we might. And the duration there, let's say it's, I don't know, 1800 milliseconds again.
Yep.
Something like that. You can see there that
Yeah.
that timing has gone on there. But we'll look at those in a bit more detail in a future video, Scott. But that's what I wanted to talk about today. So we've taken our very basic diagram. We've looked at the different types of messages we can have, from asynchronous and synchronous messages. We've looked at the life cycle. We've put in a return message there, a retroflex or reflexive message, a self message from one element back to itself. And we've looked at this life cycle manager as well, where we've been able to create an element that's new, delete.
Yeah.
An example of this, Scott, might be, if you had a surveillance system inside the parking tower and you wanted to take you wanted to be taking photos at particular points, like when the car is just being parked, to avoid, arguments about, the car was damaged or scratched during its parking stay. And you might just have the photographic system, when it creates a photo, that photo would only be created at the time that surveillance
that you need it,
that you need it. And then once it's there, it might get stored. So here it's not being stored, but we could store it in the case of the photograph, we could store it in some sort of register on a surveillance system. So that's it for this intermediate coverage of sequence diagrams, Scott.
Thank you very much, Stephen. Greatly appreciated. As always, we encourage people to have a look back at the series and have a look at the intro one if you need a reminder on some of the other elements of a sequence diagram. There'll be a few more videos in our series, and we welcome you to view those as well. As always, if you have any questions about sequence diagrams, how to set them out, or you'd like some training around UML and sequence diagrams, you can always reach out to Stephen via LinkedIn or using the credentials listed in the video below. Thanks, Stephen, for your work. Greatly appreciated. Thanks so much.
Always a pleasure to be here, Scott.